So if you're new here, we are going through all the scripture, which is really cool because a lot of people, for some reason, think they know who God is, or they know about the Bible, but they really don't know it. What they do is they know what their parents told them. They know what their church might be telling them, and they're like, oh, that's awesome. They know what maybe those popular pastor, most popular church, what it says, but they don't take the time to say, okay, what does it say in the 66 books of the Bible? Like, what's going on here? So what we do is Encounter. We come together, hang out, talk about God, baptize people, hang out, play frisbee, whatever else. But most importantly, we come to get real with God, see what the Word actually says. So I hope tonight you're ready to get real with God. So I want to put a word on the screen, and I want you all to tell me what comes to mind when you see it.
Follow.
Well, it hasn't changed yet. It will eventually. There we go! It's going to be a long time. I don't know what to say, but it's going to be these things. It takes so long. Alright, so slavery, right? So you might think of a lot of stuff like this right here. Who knows what this is? What is going on?
Next one.
There you go. Oh, you can't see it. Go back, go back. Go back. Somebody's struggling over there. Go back. Go back. Anything moving. Okay, what is anything moving? I don't need you to tell me. I'll say it because you can't hear me. So here's what anything moving is. You can't really see that. What in the world? I'm going to start looking behind me. And I'm going to assume that it is a red X on a black screen. I'm not looking at it anymore. I'm not doing it. So the red X on the black screen, it's ended. Alright, so there's a church in Atlanta that's really made it popular, the idea of, hey, there is a lot of sex slavery going on in the world. And the reason that this church has made it so popular is because this church happens to be where it's the hub. I'm from Atlanta. It's actually in Atlanta. And Atlanta is the largest port for sex slaves in the world. And what they're saying is we want to bring awareness to the realization that there are young children, even babies who are stolen from their home, for the purpose of being exploited all around the world. And so what they're doing is they simply have a red X put on your pants or whatever it is. They take pictures and they say, look, we want you to realize that it's got to stop. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry and it's got to stop. It makes more money than all professional sports combined. This pornography thing, this sex slave thing, it's got to stop. So most people, when they think of slavery, they think of what's most prevalent, which is the End It movement. Now, if you don't think of that, the next thing that comes to mind is probably the African slave trade, which was a little while ago, and he had this little graphic picture. These are actual pictures. So I had to make sure I didn't just get people's paintings or people's, I don't know, like little drawings where I wanted real pictures. I wanted you to see what it actually looked like. And so you have some slaves who are in chains. You have somebody who's been basically been whipped for whatever they might have done. That's something that comes to mind also, and that's a very dark part of our history, but it's part of our history. Now, it's not to bash America. We're not the first ones to have slaves at all. So there's been slavery all around the world for a long, long time. If you don't believe it, go look at a history book. Not just what you see in your library, but go find real history books. You know, your parents probably don't let you read because hey, it's really real. It's really graphic. It talks about the first slaves, which were actually white Arabs. It's real stuff, right? Now, you might think of, okay, the Indian movement, or you might think of the African slave trade, but how many of y'all think of this when you think about slavery? Pleasure. Being a slave to our pleasure. It's weird, actually. Pastor Allen this past Sunday talked about the fruit of the Spirit, these different things, but he talked about how we can be captivated by our flesh, and we can be held captive by our flesh to the point where we feel like we have to do certain things that we don't really have to do, but we can't control ourselves. And it was weird because as he's talking about this over a week ago with me, I'm just like, man, you should just say we're slaves to the pleasure. We're slaves to pleasure, and if you don't say it, it's fine, because I'm going to say it on Wednesday night. But what I want to talk to you about tonight about is the idea of being a slave to pleasure. And now you might be thinking, ooh, Pastor Akil, that's wrong. I'm not talking about the verb, I'm talking about the noun, all right? And the noun is like having fun, or things that make you excited, or things that bring you joy, things that bring you happiness, put a smile on your face. That's the noun. So it could be, hey, I get great pleasure from fishing. I get great pleasure from hanging out with my girlfriend, because she loves fishing more than I do, it seems. Maybe she likes me, and then she just goes fishing with me, I don't know. I get great pleasure from playing frisbee with students. I get great pleasure from eating ice cream. That's the kind of pleasure I'm talking about, right? So a noun, let's get that in our minds. Now with that in mind, I have a question for you, because I love to ask questions. It's just who I am. Can pleasure enslave us? I don't want you to just say yes. I don't want you to give me the typical, well, you said it does, so it must. I might make a statement that's actually not true, and see if you guys think about it and say, hold on now. Because I don't want to just spoon feed you something and you say, okay, you know what, yeah, everybody's been telling me that all my life, and that makes sense. No, everything that's been told to you all your life doesn't always make sense. Because sometimes it's inaccurate. Sometimes we're spoon-fed things that are, they're not true. So tonight we're going to look at Ecclesiastes chapter 2. We're going to look at 11 verses. Yes, Ecclesiastes chapter 2. And we're going to look at 11 verses, and we're going to talk about what it looks like to be enslaved to our pleasure. So I hope you're ready. If you have your Bibles, go ahead and turn to it. If not, it's going to hopefully be behind you on the screen. I'm walking by faith. I'm not going to turn around. All right? Let's see what happens. So it says in Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verses 1 and 2, I said in my heart, come now, I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy yourself. But behold, this also was vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of pleasure, what use is it? Now you might be asking yourself, who's speaking here? Well, we know it's King Solomon. Well, we're like 99.98% sure it's King Solomon, based upon the stuff we talked about last week. Because nobody else lived the way he did. There are only two kings at this point, King David and then King Solomon. So King Solomon's up there, and he's basically saying, you know what? Everybody else is doing it. Everybody else seems to be living the high life. They're enjoying life. They're out there getting drunk. They're hanging out with women, hanging out with guys, whatever it might be. They're buying property. They're having a great time. And they seem to be living blissful lives. So I think I'm going to try it. I'm going to see what happens. But if you look back, it actually says that he said it was all vanity. When we talk about vanity, that means it was empty. So he did all this, and he says, y'all, it wasn't worth it. But how many believe somebody when they tell you something? If I tell you that I caught a fish that was this big, Jay, what are you going to say?
Yeah.
You're going to ask for the pictures.
Oh, yeah.
He always asks me, like, this is the picture. Whenever I go fishing and someone's like, hey, how was your fishing trip? They're not asking me. They say, look, I want to see your pictures. Because I can elaborate, or I can exaggerate, not elaborate. I could elaborate on it, but I can exaggerate the size of the fish. I try not to. I try to always have a picture. But we don't just believe what people say. We want to say, okay, well, why do you say that? Well, what happened? Well, thankfully, Solomon actually records some of the stuff that took place and explains why he says, hey, I let my heart have whatever it wanted, and I found out that it was empty. Everybody else is doing it, but I found it was empty. Well, let's just walk through these verses really quick and see what takes place. So verse 3 says, I searched with my heart how to cheer my body with wine. My heart still guiding me with wisdom. Remember, he asked God for wisdom. God said, if you could have anything you want, what do you want? And he said, I need wisdom to guide your people because, look, I haven't lived the life my dad lived, and I've got a lot of people to lead, so I need some wisdom here. So he's the wisest man to live on the earth, next to Jesus, of course. So with wisdom and how to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was good. What's weird is, actually a question for you. How many of you people, let's say, not you people, but you all, go on vacation? So let's say you're an adult, so just add 10 years to your life, maybe 14 for some of you, 14 years to your life. You're planning a vacation. You plan a vacation and you plan on leaving on Friday and I'm going to come back on Saturday of next week. So that's your vacation, right? And you say, okay, cool, I planned the departure, I planned the arrival. How many of you think that's enough planning? Like, you're like, cool, I'm going to let whatever happens happen. It's going to be an adventure. It's going to be fun. Alright, so like a couple of y'all, how many people in the room would hate that person if you travel with them? You would, 100%. That's a lot of hate. That's a lot of hate. Now, there are some people in the world who can say, you know what? I'm just going to see what happens, God. I'm just going to walk by faith and not by sight. God says, open your eyes. Open your eyes. And there are some people in the world who say, look, God, I trust you, but I kind of need a plan. I like to know what's going on here. Like, I like to think things through. I'm a tactician. Tacticians. Anybody in the room a tactician? Anybody like to think things through, have a plan, have a process for it? Okay. How many of you guys in women's school say, you know, whatever happens, happens. It's okay. People are dangerous. People are dangerous. Don't sit next to me on the bus. You can't. Solomon here is saying, you know what? I didn't just go about whimsically saying, whatever happens, happens. He said, I've used my great wisdom to have as much fun as I can. So he said, okay, I'm going to be methodical about it. So on Monday's going to look like this right here, from this time to this time. Tuesday, you got to realize, this guy's a trillionaire. He's got a lot of money. He's got a lot of assets. So he can do a lot of things that we can't do. So he says, I'm going to systematically have the most pleasure a person can ever imagine to have. And my imagination is better than all theirs because God gifted my imagination. So this man had a lot of fun. He planned it all out. So let's look at some of the stuff he did. Oh, my bad. I forgot the whole verse. For the children of men to do under the sun. So basically it says like everybody. Anybody can do. Verse 4. Come on. Alright, verses 4 through 6. I made great works. She's like, I built things. I built houses and planted vineyards for myself. I made myself gardens and parks. That doesn't sound like a lot of great things, but okay. And planted in them all kinds of fruit trees. I made myself pools from which to water forests of growing trees. Now some of you might be thinking to yourself, okay, hold on, Pastor Akil. I've seen people who garden before, it's not a big deal. I've seen vineyards before, it's not a big deal. I've got a pool, it's not a big deal. All right, y'all, you gotta think in a different level. The way Solomon decided to build is a little different than us. So we're gonna take a look at his pools. Just 3 of the pools, right? So these are, hold on. Let me tell you where we're looking at it from. Ooh, yes. Just wait. We're looking at the pools from the top of the mountain. So, that was not funny. That was rude. So we're looking at it, well, it's Israel, so they don't have a huge mountain, it's like a miniature mountain, but we would call it a mountain here in Florida. I live in Southern Georgia. So we're going to call it like a massive hill, but it's a massive rock hill, and you're looking down on it, and what you see is these basically, it's a pool, massive freshwater pool in the desert, by the way, and then it spring feeds another pool and another pool, and what's next to it is groves of trees and stuff, and this is modern day. Solomon lived a long, long time ago, and yet what he created still stands today. These pools are a feat of engineering. Can you imagine having a swimming pool in the desert? It would be amazing. It really would. Solomon had one. He had 3 actually. They were huge. They're massive. And you know what's crazy about them? They clean themselves. Exactly what? Feat of engineering. And you would think, you would assume, assumptions, you would assume, okay, after that, after you have all this stuff, your land looks amazing, your pools are spectacular. People are coming from around the world to just look at your engineering feats. Like engineers will look at you saying, where'd you go to school, man? Who did you study under? God. You would think, okay. You would think, I'm good. But Solomon wasn't done yet. Remember, he said it's systematic. This is like Monday. This is like night. Obviously, he did go over this in one day. He's not God. But this is like, okay, short period. Let's go to the next thing. See what's in verse 7. So verse 7 and 8 says, I bought male and female slaves. Now you gotta remember something. Slaves back then weren't like slaves we had today or had in America. These are people that were more like indentured servants. So people who'd say, you know what, you're really good at making ice cream. I'll tell you what, you can work in my house for the rest of your life and make ice cream. And I'll pay you. Seriously? Yes. Alright. I bought male and female slaves. And I had slaves who were born in my house. We had them for a long time, right? People were raised up. I had also great possessions of herds and flocks, a lot of animals, more than any who had been before me in Jerusalem. Now, let's go back to that for a second. Let's look at this. Before me in Jerusalem. King David had a lot of stuff, right? King Saul had a bunch of stuff because he was a warrior king who actually ended up taking possession from the people. He taxed people heavily, so he got a lot of people's possessions. Yet Solomon says, I had more than both of these guys. Okay, let's continue. I also gathered for myself silver and gold and the treasure of kings and provinces. I got singers, both men and women, and many concubines, the delight of the sons of man. So here's what happened here. Okay, it did work. Solomon bought everything possible. If you look at it back in that time, like today, it's a very different time. The man's net worth was about $2.2 trillion. So he's one of 5 people in the world to ever be a trillionaire. And now when you look at that number, when we talked about this months and months ago, when you look at that number, it's not just the gold that he had, but it's also the land that he had, and the people he had, and the assets he had, right? They didn't really measure how much wood was worth back then, even though Israel didn't have natural wood that you could use for lumber. But he was one of 5 people in the world to amass all this wealth. The person who has the most, by the way, is Genghis Khan, and he had like over 1 trillion acres of land that he conquered with his people, but instead of keeping the land for himself, he gave it to everybody else. So he's noted for having hundreds of trillions of dollars. So Solomon's up there with these guys. So he has the money to get whatever he wants. And what does he buy? Everything. He buys land, he buys animals, he buys people. He's like, hey, you know the funniest person around, Gabriel Iglesias? I don't know if you've ever heard of him before. Yes. The guy's hilarious. He's pretty clean also, pretty clean comedy. I don't think he curses, at least I've heard. But he bought him. He bought everybody. The greatest singers, the greatest comedians, every single person, anybody that entertained him, he said, I'm going to have you. Also, if you remember, Solomon was known for having 1,000 wives. If you want to get serious, he had 700 of a certain type, 300 of another type. They're all wives. When it says concubine, it's just a lower level of wife. But he had 1,000 of them. He could go almost 3 years without seeing the same wife. Like if you went on a date night, different person each date night. That's a lot to remember. That's all I'm going to say. It's a lot to remember. That's all I got to say. Solomon lived it up. He lived it up. He had everything he could have wanted. And then what did he do with it? So I became great and surpassed all who were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me, which basically means he did all these things without losing his mind. Some people, they have too much fun and all of a sudden it's almost like they're drunk with pleasure. they're drunk with fun, they can't focus, they can't think, they're outside of themselves. Solomon says, no, I got all this stuff and I was still me. I was still myself, I was good. So also my wisdom remained with me. And whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. It's not going over. I don't know if it died or what. Thanks. I'm just going to give up on this. I kept my heart from no pleasure, for my heart found pleasure in all my toil, and this was my reward for all my toil. So what he's saying here is really interesting. He says, anything came to mind, I went for it. Like anything that I can imagine, or somebody else said, hey, have you ever tried this? Okay, let's try it. Well, it's expensive. Come on, I think I can handle it. It's okay. Anything he came upon, he said, okay, I'm going to go for it. And what's really cool here is, there's part of Ecclesiastes that makes it seem like, okay, you shouldn't work. There's no point. He says, all right, your work is vanity. And what he's saying is, you work all these days of your life, but you can't take it with you. You work really hard, and it's given to somebody else. And you can't control that person who does something good with it or something bad with it. So he's not saying don't work. So make sure you hear that, okay? Don't go out here saying, Pastor Akil said don't work. I didn't say that. So what he says is, I actually found pleasure in all my toil. It was like those gardens that I made. It smelled nice. Those pools that I made, they were relaxing. It's the desert. It's kind of hot. This was enjoyable. I found some pleasure in these things. But, just like this. Then I considered all that my hands had done. So he thought back, reflected. And the toil I had expended in doing it. And behold, all was vanity. And the striving after wind. And there was nothing to be gained under the sun. He says, you know what? After all that stuff I pursued, after everything I got, after everything I amassed, all these people, all the land, all the goods. By the way, Solomon had people from other nations come to him just to answer questions. He was like the old school Syrian. They come to him and say, hey, we bring you money, we bring you tribute. I don't know if he charged them, or if they just said, hey, you know what? I think you're giving us good information. Can I skip the line? Even one of his wives, his favorite wife, she came and she just wanted to ask him a question, and she stayed. She went to ask him a question. Guys, get a woman like that. Love so much, the Holy Ghost inside of you. Like basically, this guy's sharing God's word, who God is, and she said, you know what? I'm going to stick around. That's a solid woman to have with you. That's the life Solomon lived. That's the lifestyle he lived. But some of you might be thinking to yourself, okay, you know what, that's Solomon. That's a long time ago. You know, I know he was a trillionaire. I can't really relate to that. This was the Bible. The Bible, maybe it's not relative to my life today. So I want you to watch this video, and I want you to see what it looks like today for somebody to make or be successful. So you want to turn these lights off, by the way, so they can see the video. Or be successful today, and what this person's response is when they're asked, hey, how does your success impact you?
Now, you seem a bit the reluctant start.
Well, the problem is you can't have one without the other. You can't have a football fame and not the other stuff. So, in a lot of ways, I've created this myself.
It's what you always wanted.
You're right. You're right. It has. And I didn't think it came with all the other baggage, though.
The most eligible bachelor in America.
Well, it's very flattering. But at the same time, I don't think I sleep any better at night. Being that. No way.
You mean like alone or not alone? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, that's right.
But with all that money, fame, and career accomplishments, we were surprised to hear this from him.
Why do I have 3 Super Bowl rings and still think there's something greater out there for me? I mean, maybe a lot of people would say, hey man, this is what it is. I reached my goal, my dream, my life is... Me, I think, God, it's got to be more than this.
What's the answer?
I wish I knew. I wish I knew. I love playing football and I love being the quarterback for this team. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of other parts about me that I'm trying to find.
Anybody know who that is? So this is a very famous football player, quarterback. When he was signed, he had a pretty serious signing contract. And it wasn't the highest contract. He was paid tens of millions of dollars. And this guy was humble enough to say, you know what, I want to leave some of the money with the team so they can actually hire some more rookies. But he's making a lot of money. And before he's 30 years old, he has 3 Super Bowl rings. That's a lot. He wasn't the first round draft pick. He just worked really, really hard. Worked really, really hard to reach his goals. And being interviewed, he says, you know, and if you look at the full interview, he talks about all the things. He's He's married to a supermodel. He's got a lot of stuff going for him. He's got all these things going for him. What people today would say, this is successful. This is, you have arrived. And he says, there's got to be something else. There's got to be something on top of being a national champion football player 3 times in a row. There's got to be something on top of having the most beautiful woman I've ever seen in my life. There's got to be something more than having all the money I can spend. There's got to be something more than having people who adore me all across it. The first part of the interview we actually missed was cut out. It says he finds it hard to go out in public because he goes out with his linemen because he's really cool with the linemen, people who guard for him if you don't watch football. And the linemen, most people are okay, and they literally say it's a fat white guy. That's what it says, not me. The guy says, I'm a fat white guy. Nobody notices me. It's like, okay, no big deal. When they see him, like, oh, can I get a picture with you? Can I get your autograph? And he says it's exhausting. It's exhausting to be around all these people. The success that he achieved exhausts him. And it leaves him feeling empty. And so we've answered the question, can it enslave us? It can. We can say, okay, you know what? I have to do this so that I am enough. I have to have this money. I have to have this family. I have to have this girlfriend. I have to have this boyfriend. I have to have this money. I have to have whatever it might be. I have to have this. And if I don't have it, I feel like I'm incomplete. Because this is just stuff that makes me feel happy. This is the stuff that makes me feel joy. And it's like I feel like I'm dead on the inside if I don't have it. And what he says is, I feel like having all these things still leaves you feeling dead on the inside. So the question we should ask ourselves is, how does pleasure enslave us? How? If we know it does, how am I a slave to something that doesn't put physical chains on my arms? And the next slide gives us an idea. Pleasure tells me, and this is our society, we have a society that's established on pleasure, that something plus me equals everything. That me by myself, I am not enough. But if I can add something to James Akil Mims, if I can add something to my identity, then I will be complete. I will be satisfied. I will feel loved. I will feel cherished. I will feel like I am enough. I feel like I have everything. Solomon realized it. But we're not foolish enough to believe that everybody's going to look at the Bible and say, that makes sense. It's in the Bible. So let's look at a real life person. He says the same thing. You know what? You can have all these things, all these accolades, all the adoration, all the money, all the power you want. It's not enough. It's just not enough. Because something plus everything actually does this to you right here. Things plus me, there's nothing. No matter what I add to myself, at the end of the day, it makes me realize it's just not enough. That there's still nothing there. It's like multiplying times 0. 0. 0. Always gonna be 0. And see, the amazing thing about Christianity is a lot of people will say, you know, Jesus took away my anger. Jesus took away my frustration. Jesus took all these things away. Not really. That's not what Jesus takes away. Or Jesus gave me peace. Jesus gave me hope. Jesus gave me joy. Those things come alongside Jesus, but that's not what Jesus is trying to give you. That's not the whole purpose behind him laying his life down on the cross. That's not the reason behind the Son of Man, the Son of God, stepping off of a throne and saying, I'm going to go to a terrestrial world where he actually spoke into being. He's going to hang out and actually breathe and feel pain, even though he's God in flesh. That's not the reason he did all that stuff. And then he hung out with people for 30-something years, just like, hey guys, how's it going? Let me teach you how to love people and let me teach you how to be patient. And can you imagine baby Jesus, like goo goo gaga, like, I created you. But okay, fine. I'm going to time out. She didn't know time out. I'm sure he did. He was God. But Jesus came to the earth to establish one thing, that you need something removed from you. You can't have anything added to you. Because no matter what you add to it, it's like having stank. Great illustration. Sweating armpits. You put deodorant on sweating armpits, what happens? It's nasty. It might be covered. It might not smell as bad, but give it like 5 minutes or so. Nasty, funky armpits with deodorant on top of it makes a bigger mess. And then it's hard to get rid of. I don't know if you've ever tried it before, but it's hard to get rid of because the deodorant's stuck there. You can't wash it off. And so what Jesus is saying is, look, you can't add anything to yourself to have value. You can't add anything to yourself to have worth. Because everything that you're trying to add to yourself is worthless. In my eyes, it's going to be here today and it's gone. And he's eternal, so it's gone like that. What he says is you need something removed from you. and it's your sin. The one thing you're born into the world with that separates you from God, the one thing you're born into the world with that separates you from knowing peace, feeling love, feeling satisfaction is your sin. Because before there was sin in the world, we had peace. We walked in the cool day of God. Everything was good. Everything was all right. But our sin separates us from God. And it will continue to separate us from God for eternity. If we don't allow Jesus to come in and remove that sin from us. Now, when the sin is removed from you, you might say, you know what? Now that I've got God in my life, now that Jesus has removed these things from me, I feel like, or this sin from me, I feel like I'm a different person. Yeah, because he creates in you a new being. And some of the aspects of getting to know him, you realize, you know what? It's not that big of a deal the way people speak to me. Yeah, it might impact me, but is it going to change my identity? No. If they call me fat, okay, more to love. If they call me dark, that's okay. I'm going to go see in the dark. It's okay. What is it called when we play out over there? It's underground church? I'm not going to lose. When people ascribe things to you, when they add things to you saying you're not good enough or yours, this is even better. When people say you're too good, they're envious of who you are because of your talent, because of your abilities. Jesus says, you're good enough for me. If you're the first or you're the last, you're good enough for me. Why? Because I love you so much, I laid my life down on the cross. Why? You're still sinning. That's how God looks at us. That's how God views us. He says, I don't need you to add anything to yourself because honestly, it's not going to do anything for you. You're going to waste all this time, all this energy, all this effort, and you're only here this long. You can be here today and gone tomorrow. Anybody know who died this morning? Now, let's be honest. Like for 40-something years, the man should die because of the disease he had. He was a walking miracle. He was a miracle. My bad. But he's a miracle, right? He's a miracle. And he said, I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of death. But you never know when you're going to be gone. You never know when you're here and then gone because people die every second. People are gone. And it's not meant to scare you. It's just meant to wake you up and help you realize, you know what? My life is not going to be forever here. It's not going to be forever. One day, I'm going to be, standing before God. And God's going to say, who do you say I am? And either he's going to put you on his right side or his left. But I have a question for you all, because I love to have questions. And it's this right here. What have I been trying to add to myself? This is something I have to think about. So, it hit me yesterday. It's probably like 1, 2 in the morning. I realized this. It was not a bus. I did not walk with a bus. I used to be the first one. I realized that I really like, and this is going to sound really weird because I'm the one who always talks about get out of your comfort zone. I love comfort. In regard to my rest, I love to be able to sleep. When somebody messes with my sleep, now the more I think about it, the more I realize, yeah, this is me. When somebody messes with my sleep and my personal time, it bugs me. Gets in my way. Hold on. It gets in my way. The past 2 Tuesdays, I had been ready to leave and go home. I worked like, 15 hours or so the other Tuesday, just because. I was like, you know what, I got stuff to do. Worked out, had a great time. Went to go home, thought I was going home. Had somebody stop me and say, hey, my wife's car broke down. It's got a flat tire. All right, why not? Sure, it's fine. Because they said it was like 5 minutes, right? He lied to me. It turned out it was 30 minutes. I didn't know that. But I was already in the car and I kept just like, hey, dude, get out. He doesn't work for a church. That would be very bad. So I drive him 30 minutes and we're talking. And he wants to start talking about, this is my old neighbor, by the way, that I used to pray for and say, God, help me to build a relationship with him. He doesn't live next to me anymore. Just started going to my gym. Happen to see him as I'm walking laps around the gym because my back is sore. And I'm like, all right, time to leave. He sees me at this crazy time after a really long work day. Weird timing. We'll call it Providence. That's God's timing. So we have a conversation about God, about Islam, about all these different things. He says, hey, let's continue this conversation. It's like, all right, cool, God, that's awesome. Yesterday, I have discipleship at 6 a.m. in the morning, right, guys? Yeah. So fun. So early. So I was wanting to go home after playing volleyball. Driving somebody home, gets a call from his roommate. It's like, hey, and I get a conversation, I knew it was going to happen. It's like, oh, you're stuck at Walmart? Okay, well, hold on a second. Don't even ask me. Go ahead and ask me. Hey, so my roommate's stuck. I didn't even look at him. Just driving, because my eyes were focused, right? I was mad. So I'm just going to go home and go to sleep. Still got a shower. Fine. Pick the guy up. I had an interesting conversation with this young man. He asked me, hey, so what's it like when people from different religions come to your church? What? Well, what do you mean? He's like, well, if somebody comes and they're Muslim, I said, first of all, Muslim is culture, Islam is a religion. And then he's like, well, okay, somebody who's an Islamic Muslim. And then he starts explaining that he's an Islamic Muslim. He starts asking all these questions about our faith. And we start to dialogue about the differences between Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. And it was an incredible conversation to the point where I said, I don't want to leave. And I realized something. God, I would have missed these opportunities if I had been in my own way and said, I want to go home and go to sleep. Because I'm tired. I'm ready to leave. And God said, why don't you just step out of your comfort zone? Why don't you not let yourself be enslaved to the idea of, hey, I'm done. I've clocked out for the day. See, I like to add rest to my day. I like to pencil it in. And sometimes God says, Akil, rest is important. But don't overlook the people because you want to rest. Don't overlook loving people and encouraging them and pointing them to me because you want to rest. Guys, I sleep for like 4 hours a night, or that, maybe 5. It's weird. I don't fire without sleep. But in these moments, I realize something. I've been trying to add rest to myself. I've been trying to add personal time to myself. And God says, why don't you just enjoy me and see what happens? Why don't you just enjoy me and see what happens? So that's a simple one. Some of us might be adding things like, oh, the way a man looks at us, the way a man treats us. When a man says, I love you, I just need that. Or when a girl says, hey, you know what? I adore you. I just want to be there with you. I want to be around you. They give us all these texts, hey, good morning, good night, how's your day going? I'm thinking about you. We try and add someone else to our lives so we feel valuable. Maybe we're trying to add education because we feel like, okay, if I get 8 straight A's, if I get good enough grades, my parents will finally be proud of me. Well, it's 2 birds in 1 stone. First of all, you're trying to get accolade to get somebody's love. What happens when that person dies? Are you no longer loved? That's a great answer. We add so many things to ourselves to make ourselves feel like, I'm enough. I'm good. I'm loved. And what God says is, you were loved before you were even created. You were named in your mother's womb. I laid my life down while you were still a sinner because I said that you were worthy of spending the rest of my existence, God's existence, with you. The whole reason he said, I will lay my life down is because he looks at you and says, you know what? The rest of eternity is worth you. That's the God we serve. So whatever it is that you're adding to yourself, whatever it is that you're, or you're maybe trying to take away from yourself, say, look, if I look healthier, people will love me. I'll feel more beautiful. You're only here for a certain number of years. Health is good, but it's not because of your identity. If I had more hair, maybe people would love me. I have lots of hair. Well, it doesn't matter. Being honest. We laugh at these things, but it's so true. Every single one of us can think of something that we say, you know what, I'd rather add this to myself and realize it did nothing for me. I try to put this right alongside you and it did nothing for me because at the end of my days it falls right off. Because it's not a part of who you are. But what never falls off is the redemption that Jesus Christ offers when he laid his life out on the cross. So if you don't know God today, I pray that you will get to know who he is. That as you listen to the story of Solomon and the story of this amazing quarterback, you realize, you know what? Maybe what the world says is going to satisfy me isn't true. Maybe what I've been spoon-fed all my life from society isn't true. Don't live your life based upon life.